Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 104 of StarSound Speaks. This is your host, Irlianna Samsara. Wow, I'm so excited today because we have with us a very special guest, Cat Neligan of the creative Introvert. And I'm really delighted because Cat is going to talk to us about an aspect of astrology that probably virtually like nobody knows about, but it's very, very profound. It's called the Daimon. And we're going to have Kat talk all about this, the Daimon in astrology. What is the Daimon? How to find it, and how this can really transform your life. So I'm excited because Kat, I had a very privileged to have a taste of this because in Acyuta-Bhava Das's NightLight astrology course, as you know, I've been sharing, I'm in year 1 of that training. Kat gave a talk to us, and one of the great benefits of being in that course is that you have these master teachers that come and speak to us during the course, and Kat was one of them. So I have a sense and a deep sense of what it is, but of course it's much deeper and it can be explored deeper. She has a course that she's just about to start on a new round of this very beautiful, ever developing, incredible journey into transformation, using personal transformation, using the Daimon. So I just want to introduce you all. Thank you all so much for being here, Kat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, really looking forward to talking about this topic of the Daimon.
Yeah, so I think before we get started with that is to just ask you, how did you find astrology? And then we can kind of move into the Daimon.
Sure. Yeah, so the way I found astrology, well, I was a skeptic when they start this work. But really, I have to go back to when I discovered about introversion. A friend told me that I was an introvert after I sort of complained to them about how I love being around people. I feel very sociable, but I have a time limit. I can only do a certain amount of time before I need to go away and like recharge. And he was like, "Okay, so you're an introvert." This set me on this path to learn more about what that means, what my energy needs are. And I found out about the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which I believe is a lot more common in the States.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, we
Yeah.
don't get to do it at school or anything like that, but I found out my Myers-Briggs type, and after that got very, very interested in anything typology related. So one of the books I found, I think this is in 2016 or so. Yeah, I was doing a podcast series about the Enneagram. And this again was another, tool that I was discovering, using to discover more about myself. And I picked up one book from the library, which was the Enneagram and how it relates to, I think it was to the planets. And at the time, I was like, astrology? What? I understand the Enneagram. I believe that, but astrology, like, isn't that just for like newspaper horoscopes and things like that? I really didn't think
Right.
much of it. But then I kind of gave it some more thought, and I asked a friend of mine who's just a diehard skeptic. She's skeptical about everything, and I was like, "What do you make of astrology? Like, is there anything to it?" And she was like, "Well, not scientifically, but neither is the Myers-Briggs." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So all of this is like,
Made
like,
up.
yeah." And she was like, "Well, yes." And I was like, "Well, maybe it doesn't matter." And the sort of lid got blown on the sort of scientific paradigm for me in that moment, because I was like, I found the Myers-Briggs type indicator so useful. I found the Enneagram so useful. And maybe I can find astrology useful too. So I think my route into astrology was very much about, I need to learn about myself. And then, if you find these different sources and lots of different, the astrology podcast with Chris Brennan was really helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found Acyuta-Bhava. And this, again, like led to a whole other level of astrology. It no longer was this tool for just learning about my personality. And with Hellenistic traditional astrology, it changed again and became about everything, and my whole worldview changed, and I found my faith again, and all of this stuff basically completely changed my life. So that's my
Wow.
story with astrology.
Yeah, I love how Acyuta takes, it's not just the mechanics of astrology, but he lays it into this incredible foundation of philosophy and the soul, and astrology is a spiritual practice. So that really, that engaged you.
Yeah, and again, in a way that I didn't expect possible. But I do think when you see it working, I mean, you can't deny it. And I'm still friends with that skeptic, and we talk about it all the time. And while we don't think astrology works in the same way, she can definitely see the usefulness of it. So, I can still be friends with skeptics as well.
Right. And it's okay. As long as our lives are transformed, we like, what do we care, right? So the daimon. Now, I know that when I first heard that word, I'm like, daimon, God, that sounds like demon. Like, ew,
Mm.
the little Catholic schoolgirl in me kind of got scared. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? There was somebody on Twitter that had like a Twitter handle that had the word daimon. I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to follow her, the little voice. So can you explain what is this daimon? Because it also sounds like diamond,
Yes, yeah, and that's what I like to think about it more like that. And so it does get confused with demon, but I think it's a lot closer to. And you mentioned the kind of Catholic schoolgirl thing. Well, I don't know about you, but I remember my mum telling me about that I had a guardian angel when I was a little girl, and that I found very, very comforting. That I had a personal angel that could look after me and guide me, and that's a lot closer to how I see the daimon. I believe that in later in history, basically, it got split into, you can either have angels or you can have demons. Whereas the daimon, for me, is something in between. It's a lot closer to us in that way. It's kind of an interim being. And I'm talking about it as if it's a being, a spirit guide of sorts. But you could also see it as a personification of destiny. So,
Mm.
and so it's different lenses, but it's so hard to describe. I mean, I think you probably got from the talk that there are lots of different ways that you can come at this. But maybe I'll share a little bit about one of the stories that helped me really connect with the daimon, and that made me really want to learn more about this being. And that's the myth of which is in Plato's Republic. And it comes, I think, quite close to the end. And basically, it's the story of a man called who um, who dies in battle, or so they think. They put him on the funeral pyre, and he has the kind of an experience where he goes into the afterlife, and he sees what happens to souls before they come to Earth. And one of the things that happens is the souls get to choose a life that they're going to live. Like, here's my plot line. I'm going to go down to Earth and live it now. And they also get to choose an accompanying daimon. And the daimon is a being or a spirit who will remember that life, that plot line, and serve as a guide to kind of keep us on that path. I have this painting for that reason. That's the daimon, and that's the little spirit. The daimon is
Oh,
there to sort of lead that path.
okay.
Um, and while we forget all of that, we forget what that plot line is meant to look like, the daimon remembers. So that in
Mm.
itself just sends shivers down my spine. I mean, when I first came across that, I was like, whoa, that if I choose to see my life through that lens, regardless of whether it's a myth or anything, I think that's going to imbue everything I do with a lot more meaning, because it means that, and for everyone, if I believe my life is meaningful, that I've got this chosen path to walk, I'm going to believe that about you and my friends and my neighbors, and probably going to treat other people hopefully with more respect, knowing that. And yeah, so that just feels like a good foundation to start from. From Plato, you also see coming up a lot of thinkers, philosophers, also astrologers, who took the idea of the daimon and who worked with it in different ways. You see it coming up in the magical tradition, where people were doing very elaborate rituals to connect with a personal daimon. But yeah, you also see it in astrology, and you can see it. I mean, this is part of what I was trying to explain in that talk, is that the daimon is embedded in the birth chart. The different houses have these different names, and two of the houses are called the House of Good Daimon and the House of Bad Daimon, the 11th and the 12th. So realizing that how integrated it was to astrology, that got me particularly excited to learn more.
So when you said good Daimon and bad Daimon, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, sure. So the 11th house was the house of good Daimon, or yeah, and it was the idea that it's the things in life that nudge us towards that path, whatever that destination is. Um, Almost like if the 10th house is the culmination of the chart, this is like the work that we do in the world, what we are known for, even if it's just to friends and family. It's like, oh, that's what they do, they're that expert crocheter. Well, the 11th house is all about the sort of benefactors, the groups, the friends who lift you up and get you there. And in that way, I see the daimon, that's the sort of the easiest side of the daimon in a way. That's the side of the daimon that's just kind of giving you that nudge, and doing it in nice ways, pleasing ways. It was also the 11th house was thought of as the joy of Jupiter. So without getting too much into that, if you think about the nature of Jupiter, he's a good bringer. People like getting a good Jupiter transit, and so it's a lot like that. The 12th house, however, and not to make this too extreme, and I hope that when I talk about the 12th house, I don't want to make it sound like it's only bad news, or that the daimon of the 12th house is like
Is a bad guy.
Yeah, though I think we can experience bad daimon experiences as difficult. I talk about Joni Mitchell and how she, without getting into the exact chart and everything, how she had to give her daughter up for adoption, and this could be seen as a 12th house kind of bad daimon experience. You sacrifice, the isolation, the separation, and then at the same time, this was also what in many ways led her to write such amazing, touching songs. So it was still supporting her path. It was still supporting that destination. It was just doing it in maybe more difficult ways. So that's, I mean, and you can take it in different ways, but that's how it's been helpful for me to understand the 11th and the 12th house at the moment.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. And the fact that you tie this, the way you work this into the daimon and the exploration of it, and it just definitely opens doors.
Yeah.
It helped. I know, listening to you, I understood I had a deeper cut of astrology and what's available. So yeah.
Well, it's like a different I teach 4 different techniques on this course, and what I like about all of them is that they show you a different dimension of the daimon, but they also show you a different dimension of astrology and how you might want to look at your birth chart as a whole. I don't think this is the only way to look at the chart at all. I just think of these as layers that you can kind of put onto your existing understanding of astrology.
Yeah, especially a person who's creative or could be an introvert and just needs that assistance or that lens, like you were saying. So yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I did want to say that this is maybe the other reason why I got so drawn to this work, is because it so nicely fits into the work that I'm already doing, coaching creative introverts. Because the most common question is like, so I know I have to be doing this thing. I have a desire to paint, to write, to sing, whatever it is, but either it's not happening, or I don't know why it's happening, or what do I need to do? And well, I don't think it's the most important thing in life. I mean, the tutor will kind of go on about that. It's not so much what we do, it's how we do it. It's our spiritual faith and all of that. I do believe that. But I do believe that while we're here, we want to be doing the thing that calls to us, that feels most fulfilling. And so talking to clients, I like to try to reassure them that even if it's hard, like you might be having a more of a 12th house daimon experience, but that doesn't mean that you're not on the path. And so so my coaching work with a lot of kind of 10th house oriented stuff has really gone nicely with the daimon work as well.
Yeah, it sounds like a perfect fit. So this course that you have, what's the name of it? And do you have to know astrology in order to, or how much astrology do you need to know, or none at all? And can you be an extrovert and take the course? And I'm just have all these questions for you.
Definitely to extroverts. Yes, it's always good because otherwise we get a class and everyone's like me and we don't want to talk in class, but it's nice to have engaged people in class.
Right.
So it's called Embrace Your Daimon. And it's basically what it comes down to is it is exactly that. It's like not only because the first time I ran this course, I called it Discover the Daimon, and it was a 6-week course, so it was half as long. And I was focusing a lot on what does it mean to know the daimon, understand what it means, and also what, how it relates to us.
Mhm.
But then it's like, well, what do you do when you know that? How do you live with the daimon? And to me, that speaks to embracing the daimon. So that's the kind of goal, if there was one for the course. As for the astrology section, well, it's a good chunk of the course. Half of it will be astrology. Yes, 6 out of the 12 classes will be diving into astrology techniques. So while I wouldn't say you need to be super advanced in astrology, you need to have a taste for it. Otherwise it's just going to be really dull for that section. And I would want people to have basically an understanding of, what do the planets mean? What do the houses mean? What do the signs mean? And the traditional aspects, square, opposition, trine, and sextile. That language is just going to help you initially. I also provide a free little guide, just a reference guide in case you sort of, oh, what does the third house mean again? I'll have a free guide that people can download to assist that. And I'm also going to be walking people through everything. So if you're somebody who's more of a beginner in astrology, you'll be able to, say, okay, here's my chart. I tried the technique. I'm lost. Can we explore it? And there'll be plenty of time for us to work through that. And I'll be able to walk you through it as well.
So it's not just the discovering what the daimon is. It's like you said, the part 2 is like, okay, now that I know what this is, how do I engage with it?
Yeah. So, we have a class on creativity and the daimon. And I think this, I'm not talking just painting a nice picture. This is how do we create, how do we manifest things in our life? And at the same time, it's, ideal for my creative audience as well. And then we have a class on the spiritual side of the daimon. So what does it mean to have a more like prayerful connection to the daimon, let's say?
Right. And maybe working it as part of our spiritual practice and like
Exactly.
delving in. What comes to mind to me too is like when transits in your chart, when Pluto or profoundness like that, and Jupiter even, when planets come and transit that point in the chart that is your daimon point, then and you can plot and see, oh, I'm going to have a really cathartic experience coming up with my daimon, and you can kind of plan effectively.
Yeah, and I have an example of that. And I hadn't put this all together until I was taking. I was in one of Acyuta's classes in the second year, and it was to do with the lots of the daimon. So we have a lot of fortune or a part of fortune, which people might be familiar with, and there's also a lot of spirit or daimon. Those words can be used interchangeably. But I was basically having eclipses across my lot of daimon, and
Wow.
that was when I quit my job as a web designer and went freelance. So that was, you know, um, nearly 10 years ago. Like, so, and that moment was really profound for me. So, it kind of put me onto what I definitely feel like is my path now. And at the time, and here's more of the sort of, I wouldn't say the darker side of the daimon, but the way that the daimon can try to communicate with us when we're not paying attention, basically. Um, I was just finding life in London and the job and the commute all just very, very difficult. I was moody, it's taking it out on loved ones. And I was just really upset, really. I mean, I would say depressed, but I think I was also like I was like angry depressed. And I think that was the daimon saying, Cat, even if this sounds good on paper, you are not in the right place. This is not for you right now. And
Yeah.
even though logically it made sense for me to stay in that job because actually there was nothing wrong with it, but it was wrong for me.
Yeah.
And so I also try to reassure people that if they are going through something like that, that could actually be the daimon speaking to you. It's like a weird side effect. And the daimon still wants the best for us, but when we don't listen to it, it's going to turn up the volume, and that volume can be a bit like that. I believe you've had Stormy Grace on this podcast,
Mhm.
right? And
Yes.
I had her on mine recently, and one of her stories about how she got into astrology was she like basically heard a voice saying, "This is what you're going to do. You're going to quit your job. You're going to start a YouTube channel and talk about astrology." I don't get things like that. Like, I don't have the booming voice from the heavens. I have a pretty weak intuition, I'd say. So my other thing that I wanted to say about the course is that this is not, just for people who are already really tapped in. Like, you can be like me who lives so much in their head, and you can still, I think, get a meaningful connection with the daimon from this. And that's what I'm trying to do with this as well.
Yeah, I know one of the most often asked questions I get in my astrology practice is people say, "Well, what should I be doing with my life?" And help me find I'm not happy. And yeah, and this will definitely it's just such a huge marker. Like you said, when eclipses fall on that, oh boy, but it can take many, it doesn't have to just take, of course, just eclipses, but different transits of the diamond will really kick it up. And it's like, yeah, like you said, it's, we're here to express ourselves and to be happy. And when you were really upset and working in that job in London and you weren't happy, and like on paper it looked good, but your soul wasn't being. So the daimon was really, Stormy had the literal loud voice, but for most of us, it's not that loud. But your loud voice was your anger and your misery and your taking out on others. That was the daimon was speaking to you through, at least is how I understand it. That's how it was
Yeah.
speaking to you.
And I will say, while there are different ways of interpreting the spirit of the diamond in the chart, one thing I'll say is that the lot of diamond is in Scorpio for me. So it was going to have like a Marsy feel to it. It was
The
like
lot of diamond is in
sweet.
Scorpio. Wow. So talk about transformation, deep,
Right.
intense, and crisis, right? Learning through, it's like crisis, breakdown, breakthrough, that
Yes.
things sometimes get really intense and cathartic, and then they change from that bedrock of the volcano that wants to erupt,
Darkest before the dawn, as they say.
Wow, the dark, right. Wow. And that, to me, that makes you a great Daimon teacher, because I always think of Scorpio as like the sign of, I know in ancient astrology it's Mars, but I having been trained in modern first before ancient astrology, I don't ever forget those things. I think they're still useful, and Pluto being the ruler. And I think of Scorpio as this, as like this, see, my little bell went off. I didn't shut my phone off, and it was like ding ding. There's the Daimon speaking through the iPhone. See, it happens everywhere. But it's like, to me, it's like Scorpio is like the shaman, the sign of the shaman, the one. So through your own breakdowns, you learned to get in touch with the Daimon, and then you went on this deep, deep, right, Scorpio, like this deep rabbit hole of discovery, and then you're here to help other people across that river. And that to me is so neat. And the fact that now your course expanded, it was originally just 6 weeks, and now how long is it now, the new one that's just
12 weeks for this one.
12
Yeah.
weeks? Wow.
So
So
we'll be
that's a deep dive. People will have a lot of support in that.
yeah. And the classes aren't so long, and we're gonna go for like an hour and a half, just to make sure that it's more like we're gonna meet every week. So just making sure that I wanted to make this easy to digest. I think one thing that happens with this content, and you mentioned it at the beginning, it's like this can get quite scholarly. Like my tendency is, let me give you lots of information, whereas I really wanted to take this time round to share a bit more about the experience of the daimon. And just to be totally honest, like, this was one of my own struggles with me learning about the daimon myself. I think I was initially coming too much at the daimon from a purely intellectual perspective, because if you read some of the material on this, Dorian Greenbaum has a
Yes.
really wonderful tome on the daimon, and that influenced so much of my work. But one thing that was missing from that, if I'm honest, and from what I was doing myself, was I wasn't just hanging out with the daimon. I wasn't actually listening to it. I was like almost telling it what it was rather than experiencing it myself. So yeah, that was a part of this journey myself, just trying to figure that one out. And hopefully that will be a big part of this course as well.
I love the fact that you said, and this is so wonderful about you, Kat. It's like, this is a work in progress. It's not over. Like you first had the intellectual, you had to digest that, and now you went through another level of integration, and it's like it's never ending. It's a path of discovery, and that's really cool that everybody can feel more comfortable with you because you're like, hey man, I'm still working this through. That's what I love about Acyuta too. It's like I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring this out,
Exactly.
but you did do an enormous amount of work, and I just have to acknowledge you for that because my goodness, yeah, translating Dorian Greenbaum and digesting that, and so that you can share it, and so people can more easily access these high concepts, but they're digestible little tasty tidbits that can be easily assimilated, so people can get there faster. Just
That's
that
the goal.
alone is worth taking this course. But it's just wow. I can't. Yeah, I'm very excited that you're taking this further, because I know in our class everybody was blown away in our forum, on our MeWe forum. People were like, "Oh my God, that was amazing!" Yeah, it was like so juicy.
I'm
So
glad. I'm glad. Yeah, it's. I'd like to see where other people take this as well. I feel like in the recent times, Dorian Greenbaum kind of like set the tone. Like, here's all the research, run with it. And she says in the book, there's much more research to be done in this. And even though I don't have her academic background, I hope that I can contribute in some way to this, and I'd love other people to kind of get involved as well.
yeah, it's like open source.
Exactly.
Astrology itself is open source. Well,
Totally.
speaking of astrology, so given all of that, just curious, because this is part of a huge opening of astrology in the world community. I know you have sort of seen this enormous changeover of astrology from it used to be scholarly, and 20, 30 years ago, before the internet, the only people that really held astrology were like older
Yeah.
white European men, and now it is just so exploded and expanded. We have BIPOC community, LGBTQ. It's just, and we're going into these beautiful, amazing places like the Daimon. What do you have to say about all that? And, where do you see astrology going in 5 years, 10 years from now?
I love this question. This is something that I want to ask. I want to ask like all of the astrologers ever, because I think it's so interesting to think about. As somebody who's like relatively new to it, one of the things I have been pondering is, well, where is this going to go? I understand that this revival in traditional astrology hasn't been around for that long. We do have like Chris Brennan in many ways to thank for a lot of that, and Dimitri George and others.
Right.
I can see that line of work continuing to grow for some time. I would say in the next 5-10 years, I can only see that growing. But what I was thinking, and I don't know what you think about this, but I imagine in the same way that we're seeing more diversity in the range of people who are studying astrology, I think astrology itself, it's like people are going to take bits of astrology and like sort of run with it in the same way that I'm focusing a lot on this Daimon area, acknowledging that that's just a small part of astrology. And I think other people are going to start doing the same thing.
Mm,
Just like, oh, I'm interested in, I know Spencer Michaud is interested in fixed stars and decans and stuff. So like taking these little areas and then really elaborating on them, going in and doing the research, and then sharing it with others. And I think part of that is what we have that I guess the ancients didn't have, is things like YouTube, social media. That's allowing us to be our own little media outlets and share whatever we want and take it wherever we want to go. So creatively, I'm super excited to see where astrology goes. Though I also am aware that the sort of I don't know, the fate of astrology seems to be, at least in the West, is that it gets really popular and then it goes undercover for a while and then it goes popular again. And I can see that happening again, that it might go undercover again at some point.
no, I know. And the Leo in me is like, no, no, don't go into cover. No, it's here to stay. It's not going to go. But then what I've learned in the Judas course really got clear about the moon, how it's like, it's all right that fortunes change and rise and fall. It's like, because the Leo in me is like, oh no, we have to hang on to the light. And it's like, no, 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 it's okay. It's part of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you've now put me at rest about that, and I can be okay. I can be okay with those waves. So
Yeah,
yeah.
sun in Aries. I like exalted sun. I don't want to see anything get dark. So I'm like,
Right. Yeah,
I'm
you
with
and me
you on
both. You're like, the light, the light. Oh gosh. Well, I am so grateful that we had this chat, and I would love to, any further, any discoveries you have about Daimon, you're always welcome to come in and share them here.
that.
And I want to just keep supporting people in finding this for themselves, because this is so, so huge, and it's so much of what people come to astrology for, is to find their way and to find their path. How can people find you? How can people find the course?
Yeah, and thank you so much for giving me this time to talk about it. But and they can find me at thecreativeintrovert.com, and you'll see something in the in the navigation tool saying Daimon. And if you hear this later, then you might find like a wait list to join the next one, because I will be running it again at some point. So
Yes.
thecreativeintrovert.com.
Creativeintrovert.com. Yay. All right. And what is your email address, Kat?
Yep, and that's hello@thecreativeintrovert.com.
Oh, I love that. Hello at thecreativeintrovert.com. Cool. Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your time here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. And I wish you the very, very best and the most outrageous, cool journey with this newest iteration of the Daimon, and finding the Daimon and embracing your Daimon. So yay. Thank you so much. All right, folks. Well, that's all for today. Thank you again, Kat. And we will be back, of course, with more adventures in the universe and the cosmos. This is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Namaste.